All right, so I had a couple questions. People asking me about problem number 3 on this reteach. I'm going to just go ahead and walk through it real fast. So again, the first thing that you want to do is kind of talk through the problem and understand what all it's asking. So this problem's got a lot of moving parts in it. All right, it says Eric and Charlotte collected donations for the food bank. Okay, so stopping there, the big picture is we have donations from Eric and donations from Charlotte. Okay, 2 donations. Charlotte collected about 3 times the amount of Eric's donations. So, okay, minus 20. So this is a lot like one of the ones we did in class today. We have 3 times the amount Eric had, minus 20. Okay. Eric and Charlotte combined their donations. So combine means add. So they added their donations together and spent half of the money on canned food. Okay. The rest of the money, $50, was donated to the food bank directly. How much money did each student collect? Okay, so in this whole thing, they never said anything about Eric's donations, right? The only thing we know about Eric is Charlotte donated 3 times Eric's minus $20. Okay, so that tells me that since they said nothing else about Eric's donations, that's my variable. Okay, so Eric is my variable, right? So I'm going to be basing everything off of Eric's money. That's the one number we don't know. Once we figure that out, we can go on to the farther stuff. Okay, so now that we're on this, I'm going to actually move it down to the paper, and so we can work through this stuff. But this stuff's going to go away, so just pause it if you need to. You can rewind back and forward, but that's it for this section. On to the paper. Okay, so what we're going to do now is want to break this problem into chunks, okay? So again, I like to do that kind of big picture thing first, because once we look at the big picture, then it's easier to break it down into smaller pieces. So the first big picture thing we had was we know that we're trying to figure out how much money Eric donated, okay? And then Charlotte also donated a bunch of money, so we're going to add a bunch of money for Charlotte. And then they spent money on canned foods. So let's get a green pen. And so then we know that we subtracted some money for canned foods. And then at the end, everything equaled $50. That's how much money they had left. So they pooled their money together. They spent it on some canned foods. They had $50 left. Okay, so that's our big picture. So now I'm just going to fill in these boxes. Okay, it helps a little bit to kind of break it up like this. So let's start with Eric. Eric's the easy one because going back to the problem, they never actually say anything about Eric's money. The only time they talk about Eric is when referring to Charlotte. They say Charlotte has 3 times as much money as Eric minus 20. They don't say anything about Eric, which tells us Eric is our base value. That is our base variable that we don't know what is. So that's just our x, our a, our b, our c, whatever variable we want to put. I'm going to pick e because, well, e for Eric. Okay, so that's Eric, e. He has $E. We still don't know how much is, but we just know that he's Eric. Okay, so now I'm going to look at Charlotte. It says Charlotte has 3 times as much as Eric minus 20. So I've got 2 operations in that sentence. We have 3 times, which means I'm going to do 3 times. I'm going to put a parentheses, because this is like the one we did in class today, where it was a number minus another number. Okay, we have to do that part first. So it's 3 times Eric, or E, minus 20. Okay? So there we go. So Charlotte has 3 times E minus 20. And I'm going to stop there. I'm not going to worry about this part right now, okay? Because this was just a little more complicated, so I'm just going to deal with this. Once I figure out this, then I'll come back to the canned food. Okay, so here we're almost done. We need to add these 2 things together. But first we got to get rid of this parentheses. We got to distribute this. Okay? So I'm going to say 3 times E and 3 times 20. All right. This E carries down. We're not doing anything with it, so it just becomes E. Then we have 3 times E, which is plus 3E. Now we have 3 times 20. 3 times 20 is 60. Don't forget, it's minus 20. So a positive number times a negative number is going to give me a negative 60. Okay, so now we have e plus 3e minus 60. So let's combine these like terms. The 60 has no e's, so it's just 60 by itself. I'm going to switch to blue now. We're going to move it over here. 60. We have 1, 2, 3, 4 e's. So remember, this is 3. That's a fourth. So we have 4e, nope, not plus 60, minus 60. All right, we're not done. We didn't deal with this canned food yet. Okay, minus is our canned food. But we have, this is how much money Eric and Charlotte earned. They earned 4e minus 60, which still doesn't really mean anything to us. It's just math language, but that's okay. All right, so now we want to do the canned food. It says they spent half of this money on canned food. Okay, so we want to figure out what half of this is. So how do you figure out what half of something is? You divide it in two. You cut it in half. So what I'm going to do is divide, let's do purple, or this is pink. I'm going to divide all this. Here, we're going to actually go over to the side over here. We're going to say 4e minus 60 divided by 2, right? Don't let the big fraction scare you. We're just going to split it up into pieces. What's 4 divided by 2? That's 2. The e stays. If this is 4 e's, half of that would be 2 e's. Okay, this is minus 60. All right, so what's half of 60? Well, 60 divided by 2 is 30. It's still negative, negative 30. So this is now half of this. So now I'm going to put that up here. This is how much money they spent. They spent 2e minus 30. Okay. Oh, and we still need our equals 50. All right, so here we go. We want to subtract this from this. When you're subtracting stuff, especially when you have a thing like this where you have letters and numbers, it's always a good habit just to put a parentheses around it. This way it gets rid of you making little mistakes. And so for me, when I'm subtracting, I don't like to subtract. Subtracting is the worst. I want to change it to addition. So in order to do that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to make this minus a plus, but then I have to change the sign of everything on the inside. So this becomes minus 2e, and this becomes plus 30. Okay, that makes it so that you're still going to get the same result, but you're not subtracting. You're adding the opposite numbers. Okay, so again, you can switch that minus to a plus, but you have to change the sign of everything inside. All right, so now we can just combine our like terms, and then we're almost done. Let's go with, we'll go with green. So we got 4e minus 2e. Well, that's just 2e. Negative 60 plus 30. If I owed $60 and then someone gave me 30, I would only owe $30. All right, last step, we got equals 50. Okay, that's a whole mess of a problem to get to something like this. Now we're almost done. I'm going to add 30 to both sides. Okay, that gives us 2e equals 80. Last step, we're going to divide both sides by 2. And we end up with e equals 40. All right, so we have Eric's amount of money now, but we're not done. I'm going to go back to the problem and double check what they're asking and then figure it out. Okay, so we figured out how much money Eric has. Eric has $20. Oh, sorry, Eric has $40. And so I want to go back to the problem and see what they're asking me. All right, so they are saying, how much money did each student collect? Cool, we got one of them. So I'm going to write that on here. Where's my pen? We're going to say Eric equals $40. Done. Half the problem solved. Okay, then we need to go back and look at the other person. The other person was Charlotte. Okay, so this is why I like to use those boxes or little buckets when I organize things, because now I can look at my Charlotte bucket. My Charlotte bucket Let's change my colors. We'll go with red. My Charlotte bucket said 3E minus 20. That's how much money Charlotte had. Cool. So now what I do is I plug in how much we know Eric had. Because remember, Charlotte had 3 times as much as Eric minus 20. So now I'm just going to plug it in. All right. So let's write it down. We're going to say 3 times, and now we know that E was 40. So we're going to say 40 minus 20. Okay, 40 minus 20 is 3 times 20. So we got 60. So that means Charlotte had $60. And we're done. Like I said, it's a long problem. These word problems are kind of a lot, but it really does help to break it down step by step and get a big picture and do those little boxes to figure it out. But that's it. Sorry that was longer than intended, but there you go.